I'm here with Blaze Hart-Schmidt, and she recently wrote an article called The Wooden Works of Art, and today she's going to tell us a little bit about it. What is your story mainly about, Blaze?
It's about a man, Perry Easley, and he owns a store. It's called Osage Orange Wood Carving. He makes these name logs that people put in their front yards, and they usually have their last names on it. And the story is just about his shop and how he works, and he's kind of just an older guy and how he works by himself and gets along.
So he's the only one that does the wood carvings there?
No, he has a friend that comes and helps sometimes, but I spoke with both of them, and they both are kind of they're not really extremely like talkative type of people. They like to work by themselves, so
More reserved?
yeah, more reserved. So they like working by themselves, and I'm sure when they work, it's just pretty quiet, and they're just lost in their thoughts, how a lot of artists are. So.
Did they start the business together, or did the one man start it?
No, Mr. Easley, Perry Easley, was a farmer for, I think, about 35 years.
Oh, wow.
And then he decided that he wanted to start this business. That was about 15 years ago. And then about 10 years ago, his friend Bill started helping. And he's had other people work for him as well, but right now it's just Bill. So.
Well, how many logs do they usually do, like every week or
You
every
know,
month?
I asked that question. He's been in business for 15 years, so I'd imagine it's a huge number, and he said he has no idea. He said usually it takes him about a day and a half to make a name log, but the first log he ever made, he taught himself the craft. Took him 2 weeks, so obviously it just depends on the name and stuff like that. So.
Does he use like a special kind of wood? Is there a process about going to find the logs that he uses?
Yeah, he orders, it comes from Missouri, the wood. It's called Osage Orange. It's a tree with a really rich history because the early Americans used it for a lot of things because it's so tough and durable. So it's used for fence posts and parts of houses and stuff like that. So.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Does he ever use anything else but wood?
He actually does some metalworks also. He has a metalwork studio next to his wood shop, and he started doing the circular, or not circular, but like arching entrance signs for cemeteries. So, and it usually says the name of the cemetery. So if you've ever gone to a cemetery and you've driven under the sign in the entrance, it might be his. So, yeah,
okay.
it's something that he enjoys doing too.
I read in the article, I think there was something that he invented something.
Yes, he actually has sent in pictures and a description of how his wood carving process works. He sent that into the Library of Congress, and he did receive a patent for that. And he's also invented something that he calls the brush razor. It's something that clears away brush. It hasn't really caught on yet, he said, because a lot of people, when they're hunting, they want to be covered in brush, not in the open. But it is used in other areas of agriculture. But it hasn't quite caught on yet. But he says you could tell when you're talking to him that he's the type of guy that has a lot of ideas up there. So I wouldn't say that this is the last that we're going to see.
Be sure to check out Blaze's article and also check out the Truman State University Index website, www.trumanindex.com. Dana, can you tell us a little bit about what Tugfest is?
Sure. Tugfest is a festival that occurs in each August, and it is a festival that takes place in LeClaire, Iowa, and Port Byron, Illinois. And it's a festival, but the culminating event of the festival is this tug of war between the two towns. And it's a tug of war that takes place over the Mississippi River, so could perhaps be the biggest tug of war in the United States. It draws people from all over the country. Each town draws in about 20 to 30,000 visitors during this 3-day festival, and each town is only 2,000 or 3,000 in population. So it's a pretty big deal for these two towns.
Yeah. How long has this event been occurring?
This was Tugfest's 24th year. It started 24 years ago when someone from Port Byron just challenged someone to LeClaire, Iowa, to a tug of war, and 24 years later it's turned into this huge event that both towns look forward to all year.
So it sounds like it started pretty small. How many people participate now every year?
Well, like I said, there's between 20 to 30,000 visitors to each town. As far as the actual tugging goes, there are 10 different tug teams for each of the towns, and each team has about 20 members on it. So there's a lot of participants, and they take their tugging very seriously. Each team trains for these tugs months and months in advance, and they have different techniques, and they change the tug pit, they change the rope, they change the shoes they wear, anything to get an edge in this competition. It's a very, very spirited rivalry between the two towns.
Since there are so many participants, how long exactly is the rope?
The rope is 2,700 feet long. They estimate that the river at that point is just over 2,000 feet long. And the rope also weighs 750 pounds. So it's no small task. The training is definitely necessary. They say it's a lot harder than it looks. I sure wouldn't want to try myself.
Do you know what kinds of things that they do to train for the tug fest?
Anything from just simply tugging between two teams to tying ropes around trees and practicing their tugging techniques, strength training, I'm sure, a lot of team building exercises as well. They have tug masters, which are coaches for the teams, and these men are in charge of coordinating practices and teaching these techniques, getting the teams together. So yeah, it's a very serious thing, and the members of each team are pretty proud to be on the teams.
Very interesting. How did you find out about Tug Fest?
I was just assigned that story last summer. I had never heard of it before, even though I'm from Iowa.
Oh, wow.
So started doing some research into it and found out a lot more, and it's very interesting. I will probably go back someday.
Who was the winner when you attended?
This year, Illinois won. Illinois has won for the past 3 or 4 years, I think. In the total 24 years, they definitely have the advantage over Iowa. But Iowa is not to be put out. They are just training harder and harder every year and winning more of the tugs each year. The tug is comprised of 10 smaller tugs. It's kind of confusing, but then the winner is the town that won the majority of those 10. And each of the 10 is 3 minutes long. So you're tugging for 3 minutes, as hard as you can, on this heavy, long rope.
What do you think was the most exciting aspect of attending?
Definitely the tug itself. I mean, there's a lot going on at these festivals, especially in LeClaire. I was in LeClaire the whole time, and they have a carnival set up, a lot of games, a lot of booths with different food. I mean, people come for those things as well, but it's definitely all about the tug, and that's definitely the most exciting part of it. When the time for the actual tug nears, the entire town, everyone there migrates towards the tug pit, as they call it. And everyone's on the edge of their seat, watching and cheering and counting down the final seconds. I'll admit, going into the event, I was kind of wary of what it would be like. Tug of war across the Mississippi River, but once you're there, you get swept away in the momentum of it. Can't help getting involved in what's going on, and yeah, very exciting to watch this tug take place.
Well, thank you very much for your time today.
You're welcome.
And it was very fun learning about Tug Fest.
Thanks.
Be sure to check out her article in the Detours magazine.
Well, hello, and this is a great evening. This is Thursday's edition, and the sports edition for News 36 tonight. I'm Angel McGee, and I'm the sports director of News 36. And I have here with me tonight Mr. Brett from KTRM's own edition of the sports directing. Well, hello, and this is a great evening. This is Thursday's edition, and the sports edition for News 36 tonight. I'm Angel McGee, and I'm the sports director of News 36. And I have here with me tonight Mr. Brett from KTRM's own edition of the sports directing. Well, we'll go ahead and get right into it. I think we had a couple of top stories for this semester, as well as a couple of top athletes to watch. So we'll go ahead and start with that. Our first athlete that we have is Jen Lawson, coming off a continued winning streak from last year into her senior year this year. And she also has a career round low of 73, which she actually set this fall. Moving on to our next athlete, we have Alex Henderson, who is actually averaging 6.9 points per game and is a .533 three-point shooting percentage, which is awesome for this year.
Absolutely.
I mean, Truman's men's basketball is kind of, I think, turning it around for this year. So I'm going to hand it over to Brett so we can cover these top 5 sports stories for the year so far. So we'll go ahead and jump right into that.
Yeah, our number 5 sports story is Coach Greg Nesbitt, head coach of Truman State football, is going to be inducted into the Missouri Football Coaches Association Hall of Fame for his work at Hickman High School in Columbia, Missouri. He went to 7 state tournaments while at Hickman, won a state championship in 2004, and of course doubled the Bulldogs' win total this last season, so good for Coach Nesbitt. Jen Lawson's 3 tournament wins, we talked about it just a second ago. Big stuff this past fall, exciting to see what she can do in the spring. And then our third story comes on the gridiron again, the Bulldogs upsetting Emporia State University at Emporia, Kansas during their homecoming, winning 37-34 on the back of senior quarterback Phil Davis, who threw for 2 touchdowns at the very end of the fourth quarter, helping the Bulldogs to overcome a 10-point deficit. Volleyball advanced yet again to the NCAA tournament, of course falling short to Abilene Christian in the first round, but Megan Sharp and Allison Barker both being placed on honorary postseason rosters. And the number 1 story from this fall of 2010 is the men's and women's soccer teams both advancing to the NCAA tournament, the men falling in the first round to Midwestern State. They finished with a record of 12-3-2, and the women losing in the second round to UCM. They wrapped up the season 11-4-5, so good things on the pitch for Truman State University this year.
Yes. This has been a lovely semester, and we will catch all of you wonderful people next semester. So tune in. We'll be here, same place, same time.